Live now to Derry, where the funeral of the former SDLP leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner John Hume has just started. This is John Hume Jr. talking now. The former SDLP leader died on Monday at the age of 83 following a long illness. Let's speak to our senior Ireland correspondent, David Blevins, who's in Londonderry. David, good morning to you. Please, could you just give us an idea of the significance of this day?
Well, it seems very unusual that we're witnessing a socially distanced funeral for the man who spent his life bringing people closer together. But his family did ask the community not to line the streets, to light a candle at home to protect public health. And in the last few minutes, we've heard tributes to John Hume read by the Bishop of Derry from Pope Francis and from the Dalai Lama. And now we're hearing a very personal tribute from the family read by his son, John Jr.
On Father's Day a few weeks ago, as we couldn't be with him, all his grandchildren posted him his favourite chocolate bars. I hear they had a lovely feast, and one more. If Dad were here today in the fullness of his health, witnessing the current tensions in the world, he wouldn't waste the opportunity to say a few words himself. He'd talk about our common humanity, the need to respect diversity and difference, to protect and deepen democracy, to value education, and to place non-violence at the core of everything. He might also stress the need for a living wage, a roof over your head, the right to decent healthcare, and to education, which was very close to his heart. If he were here now, he might quote his friend, Congressman John Lewis, who sadly passed away a few weeks ago, appealing to the goodness of every human being and never giving up. Dad was a Derry man to his core, and those deep roots of neighbourhood and community served to nourish him throughout the difficult years. From the beginning, the European Union was like a homecoming to him, bringing together diverse cultures in an interdependent relationship, allowing for unique identities, but at the same time holding the bigger picture of unified kinship. At this time of planetary fragility, more than ever, he would be urging that we move beyond our flag-based identities and recognise that we need to protect our common home. Central to Dad's work was a deep appreciation of human interdependency. We all need one another. We all have a role to play. All our roles are of equal importance. In the last years of Dad's life, his physical and mental health became more and more visibly vulnerable. And yet, in those recent years, more than ever, we as a family witnessed the absolute importance of Dad's core ethos of building community based on respect and love. The kindness shown to Dad by the people of Derry and Donegal, who stopped to talk to him on the street every day, guided him to protect his independence when he was confused, and received him with gentleness when he was agitated, was a profound gift to all of us. We are eternally grateful as a family to all those that helped him over the years. In the last 2 years, when he lost his mobility and his sight, he moved to Owen Moore Nursing Home. In this, his last home, and it was a home for all of us as a family were made very welcome and became part of a new community of families and carers. The deep attention and love shown to Dad and to the many friends he made amongst carers, residents and their families will remain a lesson to us all for the rest of our lives. During the long weeks of lockdown, when we as a family were unable to be with him, we knew that despite the major difficulties of infection management and bereavement, the care and nursing staff in Unit 1 were doing all their absolute best to care deeply for him and for all his fellow residents. We know that he continued to sing songs every day, to teach them all a wee bit of French, to tell jokes, to demand more buns, and to question everyone daily about where they came from, their origins and their families. Although he remembered nothing, Dad remained deeply interested in every individual he met. right down to the end of his days. Dad was also a father, a husband, and a man who loved and cared for his family at all times. Marrying Pat Home, our mum, was without a doubt Dad's greatest achievement, and she enabled him to reach his full potential. Mum and Dad met at a dance in Borderland, the ballroom of romance just across the border in Donegal, the starting point for many a Derry family. Romance was followed by a wedding and a December honeymoon in a freezing B&B in Gardner Street in Dublin. Thankfully for Mum, the quality of the accommodation got better as the marriage went on. Our Mum, who loved, supported and guided him throughout his tireless work and later in his frailty, was his greatest blessing. None of us remember him changing nappies, or indeed putting any dinners on the table. What we do remember are endless coffee cups and overflowing ashtrays, newspapers everywhere, and constant stream of callers night and day to our home in West End Park. But he was there for all of us throughout our life. There were times when I think we all felt that he was absent, but he wasn't. He was just with us from somewhere else. Along with Mum, he taught us all our values and gave us all our moral compass. And for that, we will be forever in their debt. As a family, we'll remember the man who was rooted in his community. A man who was most comfortable sitting in front of the TV with half a dozen crunchy bars to keep him company and his families around him, or the odd time holding court around the corner in the park bar. A man who ordered the same dinner in the same restaurants in Strasbourg and Greencastle for 25 years. I'm sure he's up there now ordering his creme brulee and that awful sweet wine that he loved. A man who loved Derry at his best, be that promoting the candy stripes across the world or the many choirs that he brought from the city to Europe to sing in Brussels and in Strasbourg. A man who himself didn't need to be invited twice to lift the mic and give us a blast of the town I love so well, or Matt Hyland, and many, many, many more. A man who truly believed in Derry and the talents of our people and became our greatest ambassador to the world. A man who loved Donegal and spent most of that time in Bunbeg and Greencastle and Moville, where he was finally able to switch off and relax and get that peace and quiet that he richly needed and deserved. The care Dad received in the last years of his life allowed him to retain his dignity, individuality, and his magnificent strength of character, despite his overwhelming and growing disabilities. It allowed him to overcome. If he were here, he would urge us all to look at those young carers and the incredible and heroic daily work they do as a model for future leadership. Their ethos of deep respect, a respect for everyone, regardless of where they come from or stage of life. These are the foundation stones that are critical to all communities. The Reverend Martin Luther King might describe it as the politics of love. Dad would urge us to listen, so that in spite of it all, we shall overcome. Thank you, Dad, for a life well lived.
A very personal tribute from John Hume Jr., speaking about his father's focus on common humanity, the need to respect diversity and difference, to protect and deepen democracy, and to place non-violence at the absolute centre of everything. Also paying tribute, of course, to his mother, Pat, who journeyed with John Hume the whole way through his lengthy political career. They will be disappointed that this cathedral cannot be filled today, but they are honoured by the presence of the Irish President, the Taoiseach Prime Minister Micheál Martin, and by the presence of the First and Deputy First Ministers of Northern Ireland, Arlene Foster and Michelle O'Neill, the women who are, of course, sharing the power John Hume envisaged in the devolved government of Northern Ireland, the women tasked with carrying on the task he started of building peace and defending it in Northern Ireland.
John Hume, one of the key architects of the Northern Ireland peace process, the former SDLP leader, being laid to rest today in Derry after his death last Monday, aged 83, following a long illness.